Listen very carefully, because what I'm about to explain sounds ridiculous at first, and then it becomes genuinely alarming. Somewhere in the political conversation, the idea keeps resurfacing that the United States should take control of Greenland, not cooperate with it, not negotiate expanded access, not deepen alliances, actually take it, buy it, absorb it, control it. And if you stay with me until the end of this video, you'll understand why this isn't just unrealistic. It's one of the most strategically careless ideas the United States could possibly pursue right now. I want to walk through this calmly, step by step, and dismantle every argument that keeps getting recycled in favor of this idea. Because when you strip away the slogans and talking points, what you're left with is not strength, not security, not economic advantage, but massive cost, enormous risk, and almost no upside. Hi, I'm Mark. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your name and city in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me make more interesting content. Now, let's get back to the topic. Let's start with the first and most common justification people give: defense. The argument goes something like this: Greenland is strategically located in the Arctic. Russia and China are expanding their presence in the region. Therefore, the United States needs to control Greenland to defend itself and project power. NATO. That sounds compelling until you look at reality. Russia's navy has not been growing stronger over the past few decades. It has been shrinking, degrading, and struggling to maintain relevance. Over the last 30 years, Russia's ability to project naval power has steadily declined, and the war in Ukraine has accelerated that decline dramatically. Entire fleets have been damaged, neutralized, or rendered ineffective. Yes, Russia still maintains an Arctic fleet, and yes, it is one of their better equipped forces. But best remaining does not mean formidable on a global scale. Russia does not currently possess the capability to meaningfully project sustained power into the North Atlantic in a way that would justify a radical geopolitical move like seizing territory. And here's the critical point that often gets ignored. The United States does not face this challenge alone. The United Kingdom, NATO, and existing Arctic allies already provide more than enough counterbalance. The US already has naval access, intelligence sharing, and military cooperation across the North Atlantic. The idea that Greenland is some missing puzzle piece without which American defense collapses is simply false. Now let's move to the second argument: power projection. This one sounds bold. Control Greenland, militarize it, and suddenly the United States dominates the Arctic. Except Greenland is one of the least hospitable environments on Earth. Roughly 80% of the country is covered by a permanent ice cap. Not seasonal ice, not glaciers that come and go, but deep, long-term ice that is not disappearing anytime soon. Another portion of the landmass is dominated by active, moving glaciers. What remains is sparse, rugged terrain with brutal weather conditions, minimal infrastructure, and extremely limited access. There are no major deep-water ports suitable for large-scale military operations. There are no transportation networks that could support sustained logistics. Any attempt to build permanent infrastructure would require staggering amounts of money just to maintain basic functionality, let alone project force. So what does that mean in practice? It means that any serious attempt to militarize Greenland would rely heavily on floating platforms, offshore installations, and supply chains that are vulnerable, expensive, and incredibly difficult to defend. This is not a launchpad for dominance. It's a logistical nightmare. And then you have to ask the obvious question: what would this actually achieve? Some proponents argue that controlling Greenland allows control over Arctic shipping routes between Asia and North America. That is technically true in a very narrow sense, but the cost-benefit analysis collapses immediately. You would be talking about spending hundreds of billions, potentially trillions, of dollars to marginally influence shipping routes that primarily benefit global trade, including competitors. You'd be investing enormous resources to facilitate the movement of goods into your own market. That's not leverage, that's self-defeating. Next comes the mining argument, specifically rare earth minerals. This one gets repeated endlessly. usually with absolute confidence and very little evidence. People claim Greenland is sitting on vast untapped reserves of rare earth elements and that controlling them would free the US from dependence on foreign suppliers. Here's the reality. Greenland has not been comprehensively or functionally prospected. Claims about massive reserves are speculative. They are projections, not proven assets. And even if significant deposits exist, accessing them is an entirely different matter. Rare earth elements are not rare because they don't exist. They're rare because extracting and processing them is extremely complex, resource-intensive, and environmentally disruptive. They are typically byproducts of other mining operations, not standalone jackpots you can simply dig up. To extract them in Greenland, you would need enormous processing facilities, power generation, transportation systems, housing for workers, and waste management infrastructure, all in one of the most remote and hostile environments on the planet. And Greenland has a population under 100,000 people. Those people do not live where the hypothetical mineral deposits are. So now you're talking about importing a massive workforce, building entire cities from scratch, and maintaining them year-round in Arctic conditions. Alternatively, you could ship raw ore elsewhere, which would require gigantic port facilities, ice-capable shipping fleets, and constant logistical support. Either way, the cost would dwarf the value. You could source the same materials elsewhere at a fraction of the price without destabilizing alliances or assuming territorial responsibility. And that brings us to the most overlooked point of all. The United States already has access. Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, and Denmark is one of America's most reliable allies. During the Cold War, the United States operated dozens of facilities in Greenland. Over time, those were consolidated, but access never disappeared. If the US wants to expand operations, build new installations, or increase its presence, Denmark has repeatedly made it clear that it is open to cooperation. In many cases, Denmark has even expressed willingness to help fund such efforts. So what exactly does taking control provide that cooperation does not? Nothing, except responsibility, cost, and diplomatic fallout. And that fallout would be severe. Denmark is not a fair-weather ally. It is not a distant partner with limited strategic value. It sits at the intersection of the North Sea and the Baltic, a region that has played a critical role in containing Russian naval ambitions for decades. Time and again, Denmark has shown up when called. Militarily, politically, strategically. Undermining that relationship would send a message far beyond Copenhagen. It would tell every ally that partnership with the United States is conditional, transactional, and potentially disposable. Once that trust is broken, it does not return easily. And if you lose trust across Europe, you don't suddenly become stronger. You become isolated. You force yourself into a position where you must project power alone, fund everything yourself, and absorb every risk personally. History has shown us where that road leads. The last times the United States tried to disengage from European cooperation, it eventually had to return, at enormous cost in lives, resources, and long-term consequences. So when you weigh this idea honestly, not emotionally, not rhetorically, but strategically, it collapses under its own weight. There is no military necessity. There is no economic justification. There is no strategic advantage that cannot already be achieved through cooperation. What there is, instead, is an expensive distraction that would weaken alliances, strain resources, and create problems where none currently exist. And that's why this idea isn't bold. It isn't visionary. It isn't strong. It's reckless. If you want to see more clear-eyed analysis that cuts through the noise and focuses on what actually matters, make sure you stay tuned, because this kind of thinking isn't going away, and understanding why it's wrong has never been more important.